All right, today, inshallah, we will start talking about the definition of legal translation. What is legal translation? But before we talk about legal translation, we should talk about translation. We should provide a definition for translation. What is translation? Translation, as you know, the process of transferring the meaning of source language text into the target language text. The target language text meaning should be semantically accurate, grammatically correct, statistically effective, and textually coherent. There are so many differences for translation. The common one, for example, provided by NIDA and TAP 1969, translation consists in reproducing the receptor language, the closest natural equivalent of the source language message, first in terms of meaning, and secondly in terms of style. So meaning and style at the same time. So when we translate, we look for the meaning and we look for the style, because the legal style is different from, for example, media style. It's different from literary style. It's different from religious style, and so on. So every type or every genre of language has its own style. All right. What is the law? What is the law? Yani, we hear this word on a daily basis. Law. What is the law? What is the law? The law, if I ask this question for anybody, he can tell me that the law is a group of orders that govern a group of people in a certain area and in a certain time. So when we talk about law, we talk about rules, we talk about regulations, we talk about bylaws, and so on. And when we talk about law, we talk about agreements, we talk about contracts, we talk about orders, and so on. These activities in general that the law involves are connected with the imposition of obligations and the conferring of rights. Now, when we talk about law, we talk about obligations also. We talk about rights. So when I say that by law, you should do blah, 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 this is a law. When I say this is a law, that means you are obligated to do that because it is a law. It is not a certain statement. You are obligated to do something or to confer the rights, to give the rights for a certain people. A series of rules or a group of rules, which are obligatory, and which are applied, by force. All right. The person who composes a legal document must take the greatest pains to ensure that it says exactly what he wants it to say, and at the same time gives no opportunities for misinterpretation. So the writer of the legal documents must be aware that when I'm writing a certain legal document, it must be comprehensive. I have to include all the details, whether these details are minors or majors, because some people think that, wallahi, I can add or I can delete a piece of information on the legal document. This is impossible. If you omit or add a piece of information, you may change the whole document. All right, and you will see, inshallah, later how we are worshippers, as some of the legal writers said that we are worshippers of the legal documents or of the legal writing. We are not allowed to change, to modify, to invent a new style. You should follow. You should follow a certain style, which is the classical style, that have been used maybe for hundreds of years, and you will see, inshallah. All right. Okay. Now, as I said, the writer of the legal document suffers a lot when he or she writes the legal document. When he or she write the legal document. What can we understand from this? We can understand that the legal of a legal document is a tedious task. It's a hard task, a difficult task, because the writer must pay attention to every word, phrase, punctuation marks, or even tiny element in the document. The negligence of any elements may lead to the ambiguity in the legal document, and this may violate the rights or obligations of the parties involved in the legal activities. The lawyers or their draftsmen, we have the lawyers or their draftsmen. Draftsmen who are the people who are writing the legal documents, have been doing the same job, for hundreds or for a long time. That means they are not wallahi inventing new contracts or inventing new sentences or new formulas or new structures and so on. No, they do not do that. What they are doing, they have developed a linguistic formula, or rather collections of such formula, all right, which are known to do the job adequately, having been subjected to long and thorough testing before the courts. So they are doing the same job. For example, if we look at the marriage contract, the marriage contract is the marriage contract. We have the same formula, all right? If you look at the contract of buying and selling, buying or selling, it has the same formula. We don't have that differences, right? Whether in Jordan or in any place in the world. Okay, guys. So this is what I mean when the lawyers or their draftsmen try to write a legal document. They are not doing a great job simply because they are imitating what has been written before. So a contract is a contract. A contract is a contract. It has been written 100 years ago, and it has been followed, by many people all over the world. So you are just filling these information. Sometimes there are certain conditions you may add, but the majority of conditions, they are the same. They tend to use familiar or well-known words in order to avoid unsuspected deficiencies in the legal documents. So in other words, much legal writing is by no means spontaneous, but is copied directly from, look at this word, it is copied directly from form books. And this is what do we call ready drafts or ready translations. I'm going, inshallah, to talk about this when I will talk about marriage contract, for example, birth certificate, death certificate, some of the documents that relate to Sharia courts and so on. These documents are the same. We are following the same form, okay, all over the time. Now, Crystal and Davy explained that legal discourse is more complex than normal discourse, and we should understand this, guys. Legal discourse is more complex than normal discourse. Also, it is more different. It is different from legal discourse. Legal discourse is different from normal discourse, and it is difficult more than normal discourse, simply because the complexities of legal English are so unlike normal discourse that they are not easy generated even by experts. It is a form of language which is about as far removed as possible from informal, spontaneous conversation. It is essentially a visual language. When we say that legal language, we call it a visual language. What do you mean by a visual language? It has been written not to use it for, not to use it as a spoken language. No, it has been written, or it has been invented to use it as a written language. So we see legal language only in documents, contracts, agreements, and so on. But we do not use legal language in our everyday conversation, and this is why it is, more difficult than the normal discourse, than the normal conversations. It is unspeakable at first sight, and anyone who tries to produce a spoken version is likely to have to go through a process of repeated and careful scanning in order to sort out the grammatical relationships, which give the necessary clues to adequate phrasing. So we have to keep in mind that legal translation or legal language is different from any types types of discourse, especially I think the majority of you studied literate translation or media translation and so on, or general translation. But when it comes to legal translation is completely different. You will see that the sentence is somehow complex, and even the grammar, it's somehow different from the normal grammar. You know why? Because we are following the same style that has been used for a long time. We are imitating the previous documents. We are not invented a new language, and you are not allowed to do that. What you are going to do is you are imitating the classical style of writing legal documents. And this is why they said there is a saying, we are worshippers of the legal documents. تخيلوا ان احنا عبيد للغة القانونية أو للصياغة القانونية. Why we are worshippers? ليش احنا عبيد إلها? Simply because we have to imitate the same style, the same phrases, the same sentences, the same structures, and so on. We follow the same structures. All right, guys? Now, legal translation has its importance because of the increased demand on legal translation in general. Nowadays, all over the world, legal texts are different from, as I said, from other text types. Here you can find some information about legal translation in general. What we are going to do, inshallah, in this course, we are going to focus on the planning of a legal document, writing legal sentences, features of English legal discourse, lexical, syntactic, and textual features, features of Arabic legal discourse also. In addition, this book contains a practical material from English and into Arabic and vice versa, so the theoretical part complements the practical one. Now, I defined legal language, if you remember. Before we start talking about legal language, we should understand the law. Law is a group of legal rules that govern the life of certain people in certain place and time. Without law, the life of people will be a chaos. We can't live in any place in the world without having law. So law is very important in our life. Its importance equals food and drinks. Is that right? Imagine you have food and drinks, but you don't have wallahi security. Life will be difficult, right? Now, legal language is the language used in writing legal documents such as legislations, contracts, agreements, court decisions, and so on. The legal language can be written and can be spoken at the same time. It can be spoken such as pleading in the court. احنا بنسميها بالعربي المرافعة في المحكمة. And if you watch the pleading in the court, you will find that the lawyer is repeating or repeats the same words, the same sentences, the same phrases. He's not wallahi inventing a new language. No, he is not. He's using a certain formula that has been used maybe for hundreds of years or for a long time. سيد الرئيس، حضرات المستشارين، مش هيك؟ شوفوا بالافلام المصريه ان موكلي هذا كذا وكذا. لاحظوا هذه المرافعه بسموها. لاحظوا انه the words or the phrases or the sentences she uses they are the same. They are not wallahi inventing new formulas. We have three types of legal language. We have academic legal writing، اللغة الأكاديمية المكتوبة أو اللغة القانونية الأكاديمية which is the language used in writing the legal books and reports. And we are not going, inshallah, to deal with this kind of language. We are not going to deal with this, don't worry. We have judicial writing, لغة القضاء, which includes the judgments issued by courts, and we are going, inshallah, to deal with this. We will have some examples about judicial writing. We have court judgments, اللي هي قرارات صادرة على المحاكم سواء الشرعية أو النظامية، أو في عندنا الآن محاكم البداية. راح نتعرض لأنواع المحاكم بمشيئة الله، محاكم البداية ومحكمة الاستئناف ومحكمة التمييز إلى آخره. We have legislative writing، لغة التشريع، which includes the documents issued by the parliament, constitutional documents, contracts, agreements, and so on. All right? Yeah. Now, the aim of this kind of legal language is to highlight the obligations, duties, rights, and the bans of the parties involved in these documents. And inshallah, we are going to talk about this kind of legal language. In any contract, we have duties, obligations of the first party, obligations of the second party. We have duties of the first party, duties of the second party. We have the rights of the first party, the second party, and so on. We are going, inshallah, to talk about the forms of contracts in general, and we will have a practical material. Now, what are the characteristics of legal language in general? Legal language, there is a saying, wallahi, we are worshipper of the legal language. No one can dare to change its style. It has been looked as a sacred language. So legal language, it has been looked at as a sacred language. It is like the religious language. On the one hand, the legal documents writers avoid changing because of the fear of ambiguity or the loss of meaning. Okay? Now, according to Sabra, there are three main characteristics of legal language. Number one, so the legal language should be, it must be simple. It follows inherited traditions of writing the legal document. It must be clear. It tries to avoid ambiguity, and we will see how the legal the legal sentence is so long. Why it is so long? Because the writer or the draftsman of the legal documents tried to make it as clear as possible. They try to avoid the ambiguity in the legal documents. Ambiguity, you know, if you have if the legal rule is ambiguous, or if we have ambiguity in the legal rule, that means it will be problematic for all the parties of the contract. Also, it must be precise. It should include all the meaning aspects. It should be direct to the point. It should avoid, you know, talking about anything that doesn't relate directly to the legal action. Now, the legal drafter should keep in mind that the meaning should be all inclusive. All inclusive. All inclusiveness means what? All inclusiveness means what? إنه الإحاطة بكافة جوانب المعنى. الإحاطة بكافة جوانب المعنى. وهذا الشيء الذي يجب أن يأخذه كاتب الوثائق القانونية بالاعتبار، لأن هذا الشيء مهم جدا في كتابة الوثائق القانونية بشكل عام. يعني nothing is left out and where everything detail or part of the message is included. Okay? Where every detail or part of the message is included. Okay? Now, according to Crystal and Davy, legal language is a visual language. It is written to be read thoughtfully, and silently, rather than, you know, using it as a spoken language. Now, let's talk about punctuation. As I said earlier, the legal document has an inherited and traditional framework. At the beginning, the legal documents were free from punctuation marks, such as commas, full stops, and so on. Imagine a whole legal document is free from punctuation marks. And the legal document was written as a one paragraph. At the beginning, in the past, the legal document was written as one paragraph. We don't have, you know, articles. We don't have small paragraphs. We don't have punctuation marks. Why did they do that? They did that because they were afraid of ambiguity. They were afraid of, you know, playing with the punctuation marks. Because if you change the place of the punctuation mark, a punctuation mark in the sentence, this may change the meaning in general. I will provide an example for you. If you look at this example here, a woman without hair, man is nothing. If you look at the sentence here, a woman, comma, without hair, man, comma, is nothing. So we add the comma here, and then we add the comma here. And if you remember, in academic English, any words or sentences or phrases between commas, we consider them as extra information. Is that right? Extra information. So we can omit this information. So a woman, this sentence will be, a woman is nothing. So this sentence is what? It has become as what, guys? As an insult for the woman, as she is nothing. All right. Look at the second sentence. A woman, colon, without hair, comma, man is nothing. Now, we have the same words, but we change the punctuation marks here. A woman, without hair, man is nothing. Without hair, man is nothing. Okay? Without here, man is not. So the first one is an insult. The second one here is a compliment. We have the same words, but we play with the punctuation marks. And the meaning has been completely different. All right, guys? So this example shows us the importance of punctuation marks in discourse in general. So this is why at the beginning they tried to avoid the use of punctuation marks because they were afraid of having something like this. Imagine you have the same word, the same words, the same orders, of words, but what we have done, we add new punctuation marks. As a result, the meaning has been completely, different. Now I think the majority of you are convinced about the importance of the importance of punctuation marks in general. Now we have common punctuation marks in legal draft, but this was in the past. But after a while, they discovered that we cannot have a whole document without using punctuation marks. So we have to start, they said that we have to start using punctuation marks, but in limited cases, or we have to use them when necessary, when it is necessary. So they started using, punctuation marks after that. This is number one. Number two, they were looking at the legal document as a one paragraph. Imagine, wallah, you have a contract of 3-4 pages, and it consists of one paragraph. So you don't know what are the obligations of the first party, the obligations of the second party, the rights of each party, and so on. They said that, or they started thinking, oh, we have to divide the legal documents into paragraphs, sections, subsections, and articles. And this facilitates the process of understanding the legal document in general. And thanks God, nowadays, wallahi, we have this division. Otherwise, it will be so difficult for us to translate a whole document. Imagine 2-3 pages, consist of one paragraph. But alhamdulillah, nowadays, we have, the legal documents in general. It consists of sections, subsections, articles, and so on, and paragraphs, and so on. And this facilitates the process of understanding the legal document in general. Now, we have common punctuation marks in legal drafting nowadays. Number one, the comma. Comma is the most popular punctuation mark that has been used in legal documents in general. It is used to define the modification clauses. Modification clauses like this one. In accordance with the provisions of Article 2, comma, all right? It is used to define the beginning and the end of the embedded phrase or clause with the legal sentence. The place of delivery is the seller's place of business. Is the seller's place of business. Like here. If he has one. And if not, like here. At the beginning and at the end of the embedded clauses. These clauses are embedded if he has one. إن كان لديه واحد. إن كان لديه مكانا. وإن لم يكن his residence. So we call these phrases as what? As embedded phrases. And later on, inshallah, we will talk about these phrases and we will call them post modifications or embedded clauses. They are add extra information. They add extra information. But we should add commas at the beginning and at the end of these embedded clauses. It is used in conditional sentences. Now, when we talk about conditional sentences, and inshallah we will talk about conditional sentences in the legal documents, we have to use commas. If it is payable in whole or in part in goods, comma, each party is a seller of the goods, comma, which he is to transfer, which he has, sorry, which he is to transfer, which he is to transfer, to blah, blah, blah. It is used to separate successive nouns or verbs in the sentence. Agent shall attend to principal's interest in every respect and comply with the principal's instructions, comma, particularly with instructions concerning prices, terms of payment, and conditions of delivery. Look here, comma, have comma here, all right, in order to separate the successive nouns or verbs in the sentence. Now, we will talk about the capitalization. Guys, you have to pay attention that we have different kinds of capitalization in legal documents. And this kind of the capitalization is not allowed or is not acceptable in academic English. For example, we must capitalize the first, the first two words. We must capitalize the first two words of the contract. This contract, look, this is capitalized, contract is capitalized, has been made and entered into by and between. Now, this is unacceptable in legal, in normal discourse or in academic English. In academic English, you must capitalize the first letter. Is that right? But in legal translation, look, this contract, this agreement, why do we capitalize these two words? We capitalize them in order to give an importance or to these words, or to get the attention of the readers to these words or to this document. You know, the type of this document is a contract, or the type of this document is an agreement, and so on. So this is why we capitalize, not we, the legal writers, or the legal drafters, or the draftsmen, or the writers of legal documents in general, they capitalize these words. By and between, it must be all capitalized. Look here, the landlord undertakes. Landlord here, when we capitalize the first letter here, landlord undertakes to hand over the leased estate to the tenant. Tenant here, T is capitalized. Immediately after signing the contract. Contract here, C is capitalized. Why do we capitalize the first letter? We capitalize the first letter of these words because these words are very important or prominent in the legal document. All right? When we think that this word is important in the legal document, we must capitalize the first letter of it. Landlord, the seller, the buyer, okay, the company, for example. So these words are very important. So this is why we capitalize them. Now, let's go to the italicized words. You will find that in legal documents we have italicized words. It has been used, frequently in the legal documents. And as I said before, this is the classical style of writing legal documents. This is the classical style. All right, guys? Look here. Whereas the second party owns the flat number. Here, whereas is eliticized. And this is, as I said, this is a kind of, this is a classical style of writing the legal document. Whereas always capitalized in the legal documents. Also in the legal documents, we used old terms. If you look at this word here, witness, this word, especially ETH, it was used in Middle English instead of ES. Witness, witnesses, right? It has been used, it's still used in legal documents till nowadays. ليش بيستخدموها? Don't ask me. The answer will be, I think, we are following the classical style of writing legal documents. This is the answer only. They're still using the same words, the same structures, the same format for a long time. That has been used for a long time. Now, let's jump to chapter 2, and let's talk about legal sentence structures. Legal sentence structures. Now, legal drafting is the composition of legal instruments, such as contracts, deeds, wills, and legislations. So legal drafting is the composition of legal instrument. Instrument here means what? Legal contracts, deeds, wills, and legislations. Legal drafting consists of the 4 basic elements. We should keep in mind that when I am writing a legal document or a legal sentence, it must consist of the following elements. Number 1, the legal subject. المخاطب بالحكم القانوني. المخاطب بالحكم القانوني بسموه legal subject, which refers to a person who takes a right or does a duty. شخص له حق أو شخص عليه واجب. هذا الشخص بسموه المخاطب بالحكم القانوني. Number 2, we have the legal action. العمل القانوني, which refers to the specific rights and duties. الآن في عندي legal subject اللي هو الشخص اللي بيشير، اللي ممكن يأخذ حق أو ممكن يقوم في واجب. أما legal action العمل القانوني المشار إليه هنا اللي هي هذه الحقوق وهذه الواجبات. The sentence can be structured as follows. الجملة القانونية تتكون كما يلي. Subject plus shall or may or may not plus verb base plus complement. Or subject plus shall plus may or may not plus be plus verb past participle 3. هذه in the case of passive. So legal sentence structure is simple, guys. We use the subject, shall if we have obligatory, may if we have, you have the choice to do something, may not, you do not have the choice to do something, plus verb base plus complement. Now, if you look at the sentence here, look at the example here. Employer, here it's the legal subject, shall pay a monthly salary of 400 GDs to the employer, to the employee. The employer, legal subject, shall pay a monthly salary of 400 GDs to the employee. This is the legal action. So the legal subject here is the employer, and the legal action is shall pay a monthly salary of 400 GDs to the employer. يدفع صاحب العمل للعامل راتبا شهريا مقداره 400 دينار. الآن another example, the contractor, look here, the contractor, legal subject, shall be deemed liable for the completion of works. لاحظ لي هنا contractor C is capitalized, works here C W is capitalized because this word is very important. We are talking about works. works هي الأعمال التي سيقوم بها المتعهد. لاحظوا إنه هذه مهمة. فthe first letter is capitalized. الemployer here لاحظ إنها even it is in the middle of the sentence you should capitalize the first letter. Here if you look at employer here, employee, also the first letter is capitalized even if it is at the end of the sentence. We capitalize because we think that these words, employer, employee, contractor, contractor, works, these words are very important. Now the legal subject must be a person. The legal subject must be a person, such as employer, employee, contractor, إلى آخره. يعني يجب أن يكون القائم بالفعل القانوني شخص. Because this subject will be responsible for the obligations or rights. لأنه هو المسؤول عن هذه الالتزامات وهو المسؤول عن هذه الحقوق. The legal subjects can be physical person. Physical person يعني شخص عادي. Or juridical person. شخص اعتباري. إذا ممكن يكون شخص عادي وممكن يكون شخص اعتباري. In addition, the legal subject can be a general person, شخص عام. شو المقصود بشخص اعتباري؟ الشخصية الاعتبارية مثلا الوزير. مثلا وزارة التربية بدها تتعاقد مع شركة معينة لبناء مدرسة. الآن الشخصية الاعتبارية المسؤولة هنا بدها تكون الوزير لأن الوزير هو بيمثل الوزارة. مدير البنك مثلا الفرع الإسلامي في إربد هو شخصية اعتبارية بيمثل البنك الإسلامي بيحكي باسمهم. مدير فرع شركة معينة هو شخص مثلا اعتباري لأنه هو بيمثل هذه الشركة. هذا هو الشخصية الاعتبارية. هذا المقصود بالشخص الاعتباري. The legal subject can be a general person, شخص عام. اللي هو the subject can be any person such as a person, a tenant, a landlord. إذا لاحظوا قد يكون شخص محدد وقد يكون شخص غير محدد. يعني أي مالك، أي شخص، أي مستأجر. alright؟ وممكن يكون محدد. يعني يا أنه بيكون محدد يا أنه بيكون. وأنا قلنا the contractor. لاحظوا استخدمنا ذا. وأنا قلنا the employer ذا. ممكن تقول an employer. an employer هنا بتكون مالها عامة. يعني أي صاحب عمل بده يدفع للعامل. مثال only ordinary courts may judge and convict a person for terrorist offense. لاحظوا convict a person يعني فقط فلا يمكن إلى المحاكم العادية مقاضاة شخص لارتكاب فعلا جرميا إرهابيا أو إدانته بهذه التهمة. لاحظوا هنا a person شخص بشكل عام. طيب here the legal subjects I will stop here today. I will stop recording.